Welcome to Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda. You know, sometimes when we take all of our senses and faculties for granted, we don't stop to think about what it must be like to lose one of our senses. When I see somebody, for example, who is blind on the street, when I see somebody walking with the aid of a white stick or being led by a guide dog, I always reflect on how much faith that must take to be able to go forward and step out when you can't see where you're going. I'm amazed that blind people can sometimes achieve so much in life. I think of Fanny Crosby, the queen of gospel writers, who, although she lost her sight when she was only 6 weeks old, nevertheless, she went on to write literally hundreds of gospel songs, many of which are still sung today. I think about people like Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder, who had success in the entertainment industry despite being blind. I am reminded of a story. I was in conversation with Bishop Kenneth Ulmer, and Stevie Wonder at times attends his church, and Ken told me how one time they were having a worship time at the end of the service, and Stevie came up and went on the keyboard, and he began to jam with them. And he says that the bass player in the worship team, ever since, he's always put on his CV when applying for jobs that he played with Stevie Wonder. But also, I think, you know what, there's one individual I particularly think of, and that is Louis Braille. Braille, of course, is the writing that blind people are able to use, that little system of raised dots. And Louis Braille was actually just 3 years old whenever he lost his sight. He was playing with his father's toolkit, and he had a bit of leather and a sharp knife, and he was trying to make a hole in a piece of tough leather, and the knife slipped and pierced one of his eyes. He immediately lost the sight in that eye, but the infection that resulted, it actually affected his other eye as well. And by the time he was 5 years old, Louis Braille was totally blind. But he went on to become an accomplished pianist, to play the cello, to be a musical performer and composer. But he really wanted to overcome the difficulties that blind people had reading. And at that time, the French military had something called night writing. It was raised lines and dots on paper, so that when the French military were out on maneuvers in the dark and didn't want to light a light to give their position away to their enemy, they could pass messages through this night writing. But it was very complicated. Well, Louis Braille took that and simplified it so it all operated around a system of 6 dots. And he used that to invent the Braille writing, which to this day has been used by millions of blind people in order to read. Now, Louis Braille, he actually invented that writing, Braille, when he was only 15 years of age. And he died when he was 43 years old. He died of tuberculosis. And on his deathbed, he said this: "God was pleased to hold before my eyes the dazzling splendor of eternal hope. After that, doesn't it seem that nothing more should keep me bound to the earth?" Now, Louis Braille was a committed Christian. His hope was clearly in God. So for him, he didn't just have the faith to step out and walk where he couldn't see where he was going. He had the faith to invent an entirely new system of writing at just 15 years of age for the blessing of others. You know, no matter how limited we feel we are sometimes, no matter how difficult the circumstances can seem, when we walk with faith in Jesus Christ, we may not know where we're going, but we can achieve amazing things. And I pray that today, whatever difficulties you face, whatever obstacles you face, I pray that you will put your trust in the Lord, and I pray that God will use you to do something significant for him today, in Jesus' name. Thank you for joining us for today's Take 5. Join us tomorrow for another Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda.